Okay.
Thank you, Josephine. Now, one of the directors was asking if it can be recorded for them to view later.
Yes, we are recording now. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for making the time to attend this so short information session. Most of you already know me. My name is Josephina and Cynthia. I am one of the founders of TPPA. I'm a lawyer by profession, a certified advocate. I'm also a certified IAPP member, and I hold certificates CIPPE and CIPM. And the purpose of this session is to share my experience with the certification and with IAPP membership, because I got a number of questions from some of the colleagues in TPPA that are interested in taking the CIPP and CIPM and other certification that are offered by the IAPP. I'll be mixing languages in this session, so it's not purely English. So feel free hata kwenye maswali to ask questions. So what I will cover in this section is we'll briefly go over what is the AIPP, what is this organization, and what is it about, what certifications are offered by IAPP, things that you need to consider, training and the exam preparation or the route preparation and supporting material, maintaining your certificates, benefits of IAPP certification, and I also have invited a friend to share her testimony at the end of this presentation. So I hope she has joined already. I'm not checking who has joined. So we jump right in. So what is the IAPP? So basically IAPP is a 25-year-old organization that is registered in the US. It's a nonprofit organization, of course, and it's just give me a second. Oh, sure. Sorry. Okay, it's a nonprofit entity, and it's headquartered in Hampshire. It doesn't matter, it's in the US, and they offer education and professional development services to its members, but also just give me a second. My computer here is acting up. Okay. Training, certification programs, publications, and annual conferences. You probably sometimes see on their page on LinkedIn. They share all these conferences that are happening around the world. They also have country chapters and city chapters as well, that members can join. So what certificates do they offer? So I screenshot this from the website, so you can see. I know most people know about the CIPPE, CIPM, CIPT, and now the AIGP, but they don't know that they actually have many other certificates. As you can see in this screenshot, the CIPP certification is also grouped according to jurisdictions or locations. So the CIPPE is for Europe. That the E stands for Europe. And then you have CIPP-CN, which I think it's Canada. Then you have another one for Brazil. You have one for US as well, the CIPP US as well. So these are different jurisdictions that they're able to create an exam and body of knowledge for people to take exams that are specific for the law that is in that area. Now you'll notice the other certificates, it's only one certificate, but the CIPP, it's different certificates. And this is because the CIPPE is regulatory based. It focuses more on data privacy, data protection laws. The legal framework of data protection laws are, in different regions. So if possible, maybe in the future there will be a CIPP Africa, but unfortunately Africa has very diverse laws, data protection laws. So I don't know how that will happen. Maybe if they do according to the African regions, that is, left open to debate. Then you have the CIPM, and then you have the IAGP. So the CIPM certificate focuses on privacy program implementation. So I'm going to cover here the difference between these two certificates because I have taken both of them. I can talk about them from my experience. The CIPPE, as I said, it covers the GDPR. You're going to learn about the legal framework of the GDPR from like cover to cover, from the first article to the last article, including the EDPB guidelines. The EDPB is the European Data Protection Board. So if you're very active on LinkedIn, you will notice every now and then the EDPB issues out guidelines. And these are guidelines that help practitioners to understand how the GDPR is operationalized. So for example, they have guidelines on legitimate interest. They have guidelines that are describing further data subjects request. How do you handle that? They have the guidelines talking about the principles of transparency, lawfulness, and fairness. So they have a lot of guidelines that are issued to support the legislation, to support the regulation. So when you take the CIPPE certification, you are going to get knowledge of how the GDPR came about. So you'll get to learn the history of the GDPR from the beginning, from the UN Charter to the UN Charter, the fundamental human rights, and then the Convention 108, and then you come to the data privacy, to the directive, and then you come to the GDPR. So there was a data protection law before the GDPR. The GDPR came into effect in 2018, but there were other data protection laws before that, since the inception of the UN, the Human Rights Charter. So you get to learn all that history. You also get to learn of the structure of the court system of Europe. And then you get to learn now every principle in the GDPR. How do you operationalize it? So it's basically about regulation. And this is where, unfortunately, people with legal background have an advantage because it's very legal language based. So they do have an unfair advantage when it comes to the CIPPE. And then when it comes to the CIPM, this is a much more practical certification. This is extremely important and relevant for people that are working as data protection officers or privacy managers, whatever title you have, as long as you are responsible for overseeing the privacy program of your organization, you need to have a CIPM. The good thing about the CIPM, it's not jurisdiction based, so it's not limited to specific countries. It is neutral. So whatever organization you work for, whatever country you are in, the CIPM is relevant because this certification gives you the skills of identifying which privacy control framework you can implement for your organization, which program to follow, how do you go about getting a buy-in from the management, how to set the objective, how to align the company objectives to the privacy objectives, how to align those two. It teaches you learn about incident management, you learn about privacy by design and by default. How do you implement privacy enhancing technologies in the systems in your organization? So it's a very good certification for those who are already on the job. People that are not yet on the job can also take this certification, but it might be difficult in terms of preparing for the exam. You will have a harder time understanding a lot of the things because I took this certification after I started working in data privacy, and a lot of things made sense and I could relate to them because they were part of my daily work. So this is the tricky part with the CIPM. I can tell you the book is extremely boring to read, especially if you don't have the practical experience. You must be able to relate it to something that you're already doing in your organization. So if you cannot connect it to what you're doing in your organization, it might be difficult. But if you're good with Kusoma, then go ahead jump on it. But this is a perfect certificate for those who are on the job. Now, I will talk briefly about the other certificates because I have knowledge about them, but I have not prepared for them. You have the CIPT certification. This is a certification that is perfect for people that have a technical background. So people of cybersecurity, IT, those people. This is a certificate for them because this is a certified information privacy technologist. So like the role that I had at Volvo is privacy technologist. I was supposed to take this certification, but they do warn you that it's quite technical. So people that have an IT background will have an easier time pursuing this certification. This is for those who are going to embed privacy in the systems. So you kind of get why this is tricky, but anybody can take this certification. And then you have the AIGP certificate. I think everybody now understands AI has become a very huge topic. And for us here in Europe, the AI Act has become operational. As of this month, high risk processing, is now in scope. So a lot of people are rushing for the AIGP certification. There is no book for it as yet. There are some materials that are recommended for people to read, but IAPP have not yet come up with the book for people to prepare for this certification. But I know a number of people that have taken this certification, and it is good to have as well. So that is to cover about certification. Oh, sorry. Now I'll move to the things that you need to consider when selecting which certification. I've already explained to you the different certifications, but this is what you need to consider. First of all, is it relevant to the role and the career goal that you have? You need to choose a certificate that aligns with your future aspirations. So for example, maybe there are people on this call that work with US entities. You might want to get the CIPP US instead of the CIPPE. But if you work for, Tanzanian entities and, or they are international entities of Europe, then the CIPPE is perfect for you. But I would also still recommend people to take CIPPE versus the other ones, the other CIPP certification, because the CIPPE is the most comprehensive of all the CIPP certification, one. And two, it automatically enables you to work in any jurisdiction, including the ones that now have their own CIPP certification. So when you have the CIPPE, even the data protection laws of Africa, they'll be so easy for you. Why? Because majority of them have been inspired by the GDPR. So you are still at an advantage by having the CIPPE. And then the second consideration is you need to understand the industry recognition and credibility. So the industry that you're working in, is it relevant? Are these certificates relevant? Because there are some other certification like ICASA and other certifications that are offered. So you have to assess whether the AIPP certifications are really relevant for you and your profession and where your future aspirations as well. And then cost and investment. Of course, there's a cost in taking the exam, as we mentioned in the groups, that we have partnered with TechHive, and they are offering a very good rate. There are some people here that have tried to shop around to see the cost of getting a training for this certification, and the cost is very pricey. I know the exam alone, even if you want to buy the exam voucher alone, it's $550. That's just for the exam voucher. So if you see the price of the exam voucher versus the price that TechHive is charging for both the exam voucher membership plus the training, they are really charging peanuts compared to the prices that on my side I see here in the EU. And then there is time commitment and exam difficulty. So I've taken these two exams. I can say, I don't know, maybe because I have a background in law, I felt the CIPP was a bit easier for me compared to the CIPM. So as you go through the material, you'll be able to see which, how much time you need to commit. But they recommend you should not take less than 30 hours to prepare for the exam. And this is after your training. So these 30 hours do not include the hours you attend the 2-day, 3-day training. This is outside. This is your own study time. You need to invest at least 30 hours to prepare for the exam. The exam is a multiple choice exam, and it's 90 minutes. And I don't like multiple choice exams. For some of us just don't like multiple choice. And then you need to also consider the prerequisites and continuing education. So when you're done with your examination and you've gotten your certificate, that's not the end of it. You need to maintain your membership, and you need to maintain your membership, your certificate as well. So I will discuss later what those requirements are. And then you need to align with jurisdiction and regulations. I already talked about this. I don't need to go over it. And this is with regards to which certification you're taking. Is it relevant to the, to the legal framework that you operate in? And of course, most importantly, is to get feedback and review. So shop around, talk to people that have taken this certification to get their views of what their experience was from preparing for this exam until, obtaining their certification. When it comes to training and exam, there are two routes. So one route is through a training provider. In this case, we have TechIve that is offering this package for our members, whereby you pay the training provider. And usually when you pay for training, in that case, it comes as a package. The payment includes your 1 year, I believe 1 year membership. It includes the exam voucher, and it also includes you attending a 2 or 3 day training for that specific certification. The other route is to do self-study. And when you self-study, that means you are purchasing the exam voucher directly from the IAPP themselves. So I have done both. For my first certificate, which was the CIPPE, I was trained through a training provider where I got the full package. And for the second one, which was the CIPM, I did self-study. I can tell you the self-study, it takes longer because you have nobody guiding you on how to, how to prepare for the exam. So, and there's no one controlling how much time you will take to prepare. Everything depends on you, but you can self-study, because I've tried both and both of them were successful. So it depends on your commitment and your ability to self-monitor, to monitor yourself and to put yourself on a strict deadline. But both options work. It depends on your finances. It depends also on your commitment. And I wanted to say something about this training of, okay, yeah. If I remember it, I'll come back to it. But those are the two options you can take in preparation for this exam. But yeah, when you do self-study, the exam voucher does not come with membership. So you will have to pay the exam separately, and then you'll have to pay for the certificate separately and pay for membership. But if you pay for membership, then you don't have to pay for the certificate. It comes automatically. So all the prices are there on the website for all of this. Now, as I come towards the end, so how do you prepare, and what supporting materials are there available? So what I'm sharing here is what I did. I cannot speak about what I did not do. So what did I do? First, you need to invest more time to study. It's not enough to attend the 3-day training. And when you attend that training, you'll understand why it's not enough, because those books are big and you have to read the book cover to cover. I'll recommend reading the book at least 2 times before taking the exam, or read it once, write down your own summaries and notes, and then revise your notes until you feel comfortable and ready to take the exam. Yes, the other thing that I wanted to say is you have the exam voucher is for 1 year. So you have 12 months from the time you pay for the exam or from the time when you sign up with the training provider. You have 12 months to take the exam. You can take the exam anytime in those 12 months. But after 12 months, it expires and you have to pay again. And you are allowed to take the exam again if you fail, The second time you take the exam, you will be given a discount for the second trial to take the exam. So that's what I wanted to say. So invest time to study for the exam. You need to read the book of knowledge, so cover to cover, whichever format you want to use. I would also recommend to form a study group or join a study group. I put a link here. I will share this material. I put a link to a Facebook group that was very instrumental to me both times, when I did the CIPPE and when I did the CIPM. They share amazing knowledge. Everybody who takes the exam comes back to share exactly what they did, how they prepared for the exam, what material they used. So you'll get a lot of knowledge from this WhatsApp group. This Facebook group if you join it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, read the EDPB guidelines. Don't just rely on the book. You need to read the guidelines, because the guidelines have real life examples as well. And those are some of the questions you will come across in the exam. They come from the EDPB guideline examples. So that's why I'm saying read the guidelines. If you don't have enough time to read the guidelines, at least go to the examples. They put them in these little boxes. Just run through those examples. They use, especially for the scenario questions, they take from there. And then I recommend to watch webinars on any topic that you feel that you don't yet have enough knowledge, or you read the book, you attended the training, but you still don't understand a specific topic. Search for it on YouTube. There are countless of webinars covering different topics in data protection. So go to those pages and search and watch the different webinars. I have tagged here one YouTube channel that was instrumental to me when I was doing the CIPM, and I discovered they tend to do a short version of the training for whatever certificate you're taking. They have a lot of IT certifications as well, but search for the CIPP, CIPM, you'll find they do this review, and they have a few questions there that you can test yourself. It was really good to me, and I was so happy to see even some of the questions that they discussed in their webinars came out in the exam. On the IPP website, there's an exam blueprint. I think you'll also get it from the training provider if you're using a training provider. But if you're doing self-study, then you might want to download the blueprint. The blueprint tells you how many questions come from each chapter. So each chapter in the book, how many questions come from there. That will help you to prepare, to know how much effort you need to put in a topic. So get the blueprint. Another thing is to purchase the practice exam. The practice exam also is created by the IAPP. It costs about $45. It also has 90 questions. It's like a simulation of the real exam. And if you're lucky, some of the questions will come from that practice exam. I put a caution. Sometimes people tend to jump online to look for dumb questions. Now, the thing with IAPP is IAPP does not have past paper exams. And because of that, nobody really knows what the right answers are for these questions. So if you go around picking every dumb questions dumps that you find online, you are bound to end up with wrong answers. I've tested a couple of these sites, and the answers they gave were not correct answers. So I would really recommend to avoid these external materials, because you're just going to waste time, and then you're going to corrupt the knowledge that you've already gained. I do, though, recommend two test or exam books that I used. I used Jasper's Jacob's books. He had two of them. You can find them. I put the link on Amazon. They had questions that were actually more challenging than the actual exam. So they come highly recommended. And the other one is for Majid. He has written for CIPM and CIPT as well. He was one of the examiners, one of the people that created the exams for IAPP. So he knows his stuff, and his questions are much tougher than the real exam. So if you have a bit of money, you can invest in those two. Those are the ones I can recommend. The rest I've not tried, so I cannot recommend those. And now we go over how do you maintain your certificate. As I said, you need to subscribe annually. your certification is valid for 2 years. So it does not mean that after 2 years it expires. No, it means that after 2 years, if you have not paid, you've not paid your membership subscription, then your certificate is suspended, but you have to pay annually. And then you need to maintain your certificate with CPE points. CPE, it's like lawyers know you have CLE points, so something like that. For the CIPPE, you need to maintain 14.5 points. For the CIPM, you need 20 points. I don't know what you need for the other certificates. And how do you obtain this? You obtain by attending events where they specifically say you get CPE points for this event. But also, if you read some of the papers on IAPP website, there are some papers that are tagged with you can get a CLE point for reading this material. And you can also get CLE points for being a speaker at a webinar or at an event. You submit those points and you motivate why you think you deserve to get a CLE point. It's because you did this, you contributed to the body of knowledge for data protection. So what are the benefits of these certificates? So I've mentioned some of them as we were going along, but I'll add here a few more. One, when you obtain 2 certificates, you qualify for a accreditation that is known as FIP. This is Fellow of Information Privacy. So it's a nicheo ambacho unakipata. You will need 3 people to recommend you. You can apply for it, but you need to give contact details of the 3 people that would recommend you and see that you deserve to get the FIP accreditation. So that is one of the benefits. The second one, you can volunteer for the IAPP. They have different volunteering positions. You can be in the you can be an advisory board member, and then you can also be a chapter chair as well. You can apply for those when you are when you have the certificate and you're a member of the IAPP. You also have the opportunity to do research papers and articles and white papers that are published on the IAPP page, as well as speak at their events. Of course, you get this world recognition and you increase your chance to be hired beyond the borders of Tanzania. Your CV becomes bigger, and you get to places you never thought you'll be able to get. I am a living testimony. I got an opportunity to enter corporate Sweden because of this certification. So I don't know if you need any more proof. Now I finished my presentation and I see Cynthia is here. So Cynthia is a friend of mine and colleague, and my study partner as well when we were doing the CIPM. I invited her to quickly share her experience as well, so you don't just hear one person speaking about this. And then after she shares her story, we can jump into the Q&A. So while she's speaking, I'm gonna look at the chat. Karibu, Cynthia.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Josephina, for the invite. I really appreciate, and I didn't expect that my face will be up here because you told me this is going to be very short. Yeah. However, we move on. As a practitioner, and I think from my experience here in Kenya, it's been really interesting how the privacy professional or role in the industry has grown so fast. And maybe just by way of introduction, I'd say I'm a licensed advocate practicing in Kenya. And when I started out my career, well, I did a bit of litigation. Then along the way, I transitioned. So I've been to court, did commercial law, civil litigation, criminal cases here and there. And, practice is not for the faint-hearted, as we say here. However, along the way, I think I handled a matter when I was freshly admitted as an advocate. That is in 2022. And it was a matter that was touching on privacy. And I remember this was a suit by one of my campus mates regarding an activity. They had gone to a certain location That's a hotel, so to say, within, Kenya, if you know Naivasha, where most of the institutions in Kenya take their, staff for team building, etc. So during the event, they took photos and all that. And later on, they were surprised to find that his photos and those of their colleagues had been used to market some of the products of that very recreational center or workshop center within Naivasha. So that is when we started looking at, like, I developed interest personally when it comes to privacy, because our basis for suing the very entity, the company, or the hotel rather, that was using the photo was on the violation of the right to privacy under Article 31 of the Constitution of Kenya. However, as we went through the litigation process, submitting petition and all that, because this was now a constitutional petition, if you go by way of a violation of our constitutional rights, only for us to be met with a preliminary objection regarding the jurisdiction where we were filing the matter. So I had to go back, take a step back, because if the jurisdiction of the court is being challenged when it comes to, litigating on this matter, then the question is, which was the proper forum to file this case? And it led me to the Data Protection Act that came into force in Kenya in 2019. And it took me down a rabbit hole. Along the way, I discovered the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, and it was really exciting to learn about all this. Yeah. So I'm just trying to explain or give you a background of how I ended up in privacy as a lawyer or as a practitioner. And it was interesting to learn that we have these new laws in the industry, and it was more of, it created a kind of a nexus between law and technology, because we're wondering, of course, the right to privacy has been existent for quite some time. If you go through the common laws that we were trained on in, campus and all that, you can clearly see that there were the right to privacy, to an individual's property, you should not trespass, etc., etc. But then this was a very interesting case. So coming to learn of these new laws, then I think it opened me to now another global space of privacy. And I realized that this is something that has been happening in the global, platform. And I'm just beginning to learn about it at that time in 2022. And I was just fresh from school, yeah? So in line of that, and when I discovered all these, I realized that then this is a career path or an area of practice I can decide to, cover niche in and specialize in. And that's how I ended up in data protection and cybersecurity. So as Josephina had earlier intimated, we actually did prepare together for the CIPM a while back. We've also had some other relations when we, started the Association of Privacy Lawyers in Africa. That was in 2023. Yeah, 2022, if I recall very well. And we've both grown in terms of our careers and even just securing employment opportunities in the industry. And the question you would maybe want to know is, how did this happen? How did we go about this? Because as you level up in your career, you realize you need certain certifications, you need certain, papers that will, speak for you, and it gives you credibility in the industry. So as I grew in this industry, I realized that at some point you find yourself in spaces where you need to speak with a lot of authority. And how do you present yourself with, such authority, and even, discuss issues with level-minded people when it comes to privacy? And the route to it for me was getting the IAPP certifications. And back then, I think I just started a training that really helped me and catapulted my career, and that was in cybersecurity. So I'm equally a trained lawyer in cybersecurity, governance, risk, and compliance. And along the way, I realized that there's a great nexus, and probably I'll just have to, I want to add to what Josephina said. It's nothing new. There's a great nexus between cybersecurity and privacy, and I think lawyers, we might want to also get into that space where we appreciate the cybersecurity laws and the new AI regulations that are coming into play, because we cannot separate them. It's like a sandwich kind of thing, yeah, that this builds on this other. And when enforcing privacy regulations and laws, when breaches happen, they happen in technical spaces where it's largely, or the information in those spaces are largely protected by or through cybersecurity solutions. So we really need to appreciate cybersecurity as well at the same time. And to add on the benefits, one is, I think I stated this one earlier, it gives you credibility in terms of who you are as a brand, visibility in the industry, and also gives you a career milestone. And when I talk of credibility, this is in terms of skills and knowledge. And I think Josephina has done a very good job just to break down how CIPM looks like and what it is and why you need to take either CIPM or CIPP, which is, they're both significant depending on the area of practice you want to, work in. And for CIPM, I believe for me, it came in handy since it gave me a very solid knowledge and background in developing a data privacy or data governance framework. So these certifications, it brings you to that level of appreciating why privacy, why institutions need it, who are the stakeholders, how do you design your privacy team, how do you respond to data subject requests, how do you respond to incidences, how do you handle incidences within the statutory timeline. So while they might be a bit costly, I will advise that it pays off. It pays off. And it is, the returns are quick, so to say. I can tell you for a fact, since the demand is very high in the industry as we speak. And when you combine privacy and cybersecurity, I have people who've reached out to me, like people literally headhunt you for a job. And I remember the first time, I think the biggest bank in Kenya, somebody was hiring for equity, and they texted me, like they inboxed me on LinkedIn. Hi, Cynthia, I'm so and so, I'm hiring for this bank. Kindly, this is the JD, send your CV. And I'm like, wow, what is the salary? Those are the questions you start asking. What are the benefits and all that? So when I talk of credibility, it gives you visibility, they sure do, because employers also trust, individuals or staff that have these specific skills, yeah. And I believe most entities also want to have a skilled workforce, yeah. Apart from credibility, of course, it is an advantage to you as an individual for career advancement and, of course, attracting new and better opportunities in the industry. So I think the long and short of it for me is that I'll encourage each and every one of us on the call to take these certifications. Just a minute, I'm home. I'll be back shortly. Give me like 30 seconds.
Sure. Okay, while we wait for Cynthia to come and finish her testimony, please prepare your questions if you have any. I didn't see any questions in the chat. So assuming, or you can start raising your hands as well so that we go a bit faster. I wanted this to be as short as possible. So kama kuna maswali, please raise up your hand and I'll stop the recording shortly so that we can have a free discussion.
Well, so we can proceed. I'm back. And to add on that, sometimes you find that just based on my experience and what I've really, it's like lived experience in the industry, when there's a shortage of experts, you'll find that when there's a job somewhere, people will always want to have you. People will always want to, refer you to the jobs. You'll get calls, you'll get what. And I think last year, there was this project. A friend of mine was being contacted to provide consultancy services to World Bank. This is a multinational and it is, a very renowned entity across the jurisdiction through AGAD. And some of the skill sets they were looking out for were a lawyer who has a privacy certification, and they are also very conversant with cybersecurity, both at a technical and regulatory level within East Africa. So like she mentioned my name and someone reached out to me, and this is a law firm that is based in Geneva, Switzerland, and this is not the first time that this is happening to me. So if when I talk of it opens opportunities, it opens doors for you, it surely does. And these are projects that you do for 10 days, you are paid over 500 USD per day. So if you multiply that by 10 days, how much is that? So in as much as the investment might look like it's huge, it will like hurt your pockets a bit, but the returns are, as I say, they are quick to come by. And we should not shy away from asking for help, asking for the resources. I know they might be a bit expensive, but then we are here to support each other as privacy professionals within East Africa. And that is the spirit I want everyone within the region to move with. That they might be expensive, but then how do we make sure that we are able to build capacity within and among ourselves? And if you're an IAPP member, any of us, we had a recent IAPP Knowledge Net, and it was a collaboration between the Kenyan and ODPC and the Ugandan regulator, privacy regulator. And it was very interesting because it touched on cross-border data transfers and all that. And it means this is going to really, support you in your work as an individual to appreciate how to achieve your professional objectives, even in your, day-to-day work. Because at the end of the day, there's those of us who work in entities that are multinational or they have regional presence within East Africa. So until we get to sit in such forums and share knowledge and appreciate, technology is fast moving, the law is always playing catch up. So how do we make sure that in as much as we have our certifications, how do we keep up? And this is what Josephina was referring to as CPE credits. And if you attended the recent training by Privacy Hub Africa, it was a very great training, and they were equally giving CPE credit. So around 6 if you are an advocate. Yeah, if you're a member of IAPP, so to say, apologies, member of IAPP. So we have to keep looking out for these opportunities. How do we make sure that we are able to scale up and level up career-wise and professionally? Yeah. So for now, I think that's it from my end, and I'll be available on the call for any other question.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. That was amazing. I have nothing to add to that. So I'm gonna stop the recording now and then invite if there are people that have questions.